Hey, it's Anthony Meisner and Tucker Brock. We're here to give you your Boulder County lender update. So let's get going.
So March has some really interesting things going on, and earlier in the year we were looking at it, going, "Hey, we're going to be kind of trending towards a little bit more of a normal year. Inventory should start rising as spring continues." But we're not seeing the inventory rise. It's because we're just not having enough of it hit the market. So
So
it's a
think 2019 because this exact thing happened in 2019. You had a rising inventory market, but buyers came out early. The problem is they just can't keep up with the amount of sellers coming to market. So expect rising inventory over the next like 2 to 3 quarters. But the big difference is we did have some interest out of the gate, right? I mean, we were just a little short, 60 or so closings per month. It's giving you this little tiny rise you see here, but then things should explode.
Yeah, so we're really hoping, waiting for that inventory to hit the market. But the good sign is, month over month, we're up pretty much 55% in our solds, and we're up 20, 22, 23% in our under contracts. So it's a really good sign showing that buyer demand is really picking up. The inventory just can't keep up. The buyers are out faster and sooner than the inventory is hitting the market. So we're kind of waiting for that inventory to catch up. So hopefully we'll have some more options out there for buyers.
Okay, so the last takeaway that I think is super important here is the under contract number year over year is -9%. Think last year, 4% interest rates, boom, market, things were insane. The fact that we're only 9% down is a miracle.
And then when you look at the year to date, we're only 14% down year to date on our under contracts. It's not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. Fourth quarter was down like 25 to 35% any given month.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're only that short is like a really, I mean, it's a positive sign. So, all right, let's get over to the inventory situation. Let me get out of the way here and maybe you can see this. But basically, best thing about the inventory slide is it gives you the breakdown by city in the county. And the one thing you got to remember is not all markets are created equal. Look at Louisville, same exact inventory as last year. Now, there's a lot to be said about that, right? The Marshall fires dramatically affected our markets, and places like, Erie has had a 160% increase, but the sales have boomed because of it. A lot of other places have had huge drops in numbers of sales, but more modest increases in inventory. So each market's really unique. If you need market data, don't forget to reach out to us because we can help you walk through this, or we'll get you exactly what you need. So even if it's Lions or Net or it's,
or dial it in a little bit more, maybe somewhere else, Denver. But the other thing to really note here is kind of looking at our inventory. The inventory is not equal across the county, right? Boulder has continued to pick up more and more inventory, and that's a lot of it based on the price point, where the areas that are a little bit more affordable are flat or declining in the amount of inventory that they really have, which is really tough right now in this time of year because we need more inventory to hit the market. So
we totally do. Yeah. So Boulder is showing its resilience. There's no doubt about that. All right, so look at month supply of inventory. This is if nothing else goes on the market, how long does it take to sell everything at the current rate? So super sellers market still. Are we anywhere where we were a year ago? No. So I think the big thing to talk about is don't be scared by 183% increase in month supply of inventory because that's a staggering number. But at the same time, we went from 2 weeks of inventory to 7 weeks of inventory, right? So
it's still absolutely low. And that's where even when we look across the county, it's not, once again, it's not equal.
Look at Louisville. Unreal.
And it really kind of tells us what is happening, what's the speed of the market, what's the competition like for these different areas. And remember, a balanced market, which we consider here in probably Colorado is about 4 months to 6 months would be a balanced market. We're at 2. And that's
we usually don't get to a balance in the front range.
And that's exactly what I'm saying is it's still a good market for sellers. So your buyers out there need to understand those contracts. Hey, you can't just be asking for every concession. It's getting harder and harder because of the lack of inventory.
All right, let's get to the good news because there's some really good news for your buyers out there. Days in MLS are still at 41.5. Now, this is going to trend down all the way through that May-June timeframe, but let's just say we get somewhere in the 20 to 30 range by that point. This is a very different market than it was a year or 2 years ago. Back even into like 2019 or 2020, you saw that bounce around a lot around 30 days. So it traditionally, because of seasonality, should be its highest in January, its lowest in May or June. And so we're looking like we're back on a very normalized seasonal market again. And I think that's a really good sign for our buyers because seasonality is a good thing for the market, right? And honestly, the craziness that happened over the last 3 years, none of us want to deal with that.
Well, it's just not sustainable, right? We can't have double-digit increases in property value and expect not to price everybody out and then have a hollow community of no one able to actually work here that lives here.
Exactly.
And then that's where also once again look at those submarkets, and it tells you what's your timeline like. So especially if you're looking in, Longmont or Superior, maybe even Lafayette, you have a little bit more time. But if you're looking in Boulder, Louisville, hey, if you find the house you like, you need to go at it right away.
Boulder's had this huge increase in inventory, and they're having monthly increases in inventory, but yet the ones that are selling in 30 days. So it just goes to show you the resilience in some markets. Like if people want a price, they're just going to list it at that price in the city of Boulder. That doesn't happen in a place like Erie, right? Erie's fighting just to get stuff sold. Or like Niwot's a good example. A lot of times you see that in Niwot too, where you're a $1.8 million house and you think it's worth 2.2. You might just put it on the market for 2.2 and sit for 2 years, right? Like people will get what they want, or they just hang out until they get there, right?
Yeah. People have the financial ability to kind of sit, and that's what we're kind of saying is your offers with your buyers, they got to be stronger, and they really have to have those buttoned up offers. We don't think we're coming back to those 2-3 week closing speeds and all that, but don't forget those tools. Don't forget some of those extra things you can do for those 2-1 buy downs, in addition to the other ways you can help realtors win those deals. Those phone calls, that's really going to help right now, especially with the high rates. Help your agents.
It has been fascinating to me to see from our perspective. We're still getting buy downs, but we're getting offers over asking price with buy downs, right? Like, so we're seeing a lot of that, and I know you probably know that because you guys are working in it, but I just want to reiterate that. Now, on this slide, let's talk a little bit about the tale of the 3 different markets that we're experiencing, because that's not happening across all of the front range. The ultra luxury, that 3+ million, or I would say ultra luxury is really like 4 or 5+ million in Boulder County these days. But that part of the market has been so resilient. It seems like ever since the pandemic, the lid got blown off, and here we are where we're basically just clipping along in luxury, right? Money keeps rolling into Boulder, and it doesn't seem to matter what the market conditions are.
And that's for the super luxury. But when we get back into what we used to consider luxury, 1 million to 2 million.
1 to 3 million.
Yeah,
right?
1 to 3.
Because you can see 1 to 3 right here in the corner. 1 to 1.5 million is minus 22%, all the way up to 3. Up, that peak at 3 million is down 25% sales. Man, cost of money is really
affected. And that's where we can see it is these are the folks who right now are shopping in that 800 to a million range that were shopping in the 1 to 1.5, or maybe 1.8 to 2 million, maybe even a little bit higher. That mid luxury just isn't as strong because these folks are still having to use loans to purchase and acquire these homes, and the interest rates are just killing them. Right? You guys know this more than anybody out there as lenders. But yeah, the economy's slowing down. All the real estate activity slowing down a little bit. I know there's a lot of folks who have their hands in that, whatever it may be. With the cost of money being higher, that's where we're seeing the biggest impact is that 1 million to 3 million range. They're getting hammered right now with the cost of money and how much you're borrowing at those price points. Whereas when we get to that under $1 million, that's starting to pick up steam. It's not as, of course, it's not like the luxury market or that super luxury market of the 3-4 million plus, but it's still doing really well, right, Anthony?
Yeah, it really just seems like it's kind of laddered down every price range. So you can see here the active units are really slim towards the bottom of that chart, and the solds are kind of keeping up with a lot of that. If you go over here to this next slide, you can really see just the dramatic change under $1 million, because every single price point as you go down gets less and less inventory, and the market gets faster and faster. So I just think it's worth noting, when you're working with those people that are median home buyers, right? They're in a very competitive, different situation than before. Now, there might not be as many buyers out there for it, but we're still in a super inventory shortage, so they need to treat it a lot more like that. And, when we get into the list of sale price, right, it's way more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's nowhere near where it was a year ago. So I say it's really competitive, but keep that in perspective of compared to any historical market.
We're going to just say outside of the 2.5 crazy years of COVID, it's a very, very competitive market for the buyers out there, especially as you go down. So the further you go down in those price points, the more competitive it's going to be, as this is really showing us. So you can kind of coach, and talk to your folks, hey, the lower we're going in price point, the more competitive and the stronger your offer has to be. So we're going to see more appreciation as well because of that in the lower end of the market going forward for the rest of this year.
Let's get over to the next one. So let's talk a little bit about total amount of sales in the marketplace, what to expect, where we're at. Now, January sold numbers, December under contract numbers, were the worst we've seen since 2012, right? They were abysmal from all of our perspectives. Were they really that bad? No, honestly, our market's always clipping along some, but it was just the slowest we've seen in a decade, right?
Well, and it's also, we went from the peak to the valley,
9 months.
yeah, in a very short amount of time.
So the big thing here that I wanted to talk about is just how the market's been responding this year versus what we saw before. So December is a lagging indicator, the sold data, right? So December was the lowest point. February saw a little bit of a bump up, but now it really feels like we're picking up off to the races. Expect true normal seasonality in the market. We're going to have a lot more sales in the spring and the summer markets. And then here's the caveat, right? If interest rates drop, we could see a plateauing fall. If interest rates stay where they're at, you'll see the normal traditional seasonality like every year. The nice big hump where we have really low valleys and we have really high peaks because that is how buyers
That's
buy.
how people shop.
That's how people shop.
Well, it's the weather in Colorado, it's everything else.
We're really dictated by buyer behavior now.
But it's really, I really just love just the visualization of this on the very far right-hand side of this graph. Look at that nice steep line jumping from February to March. That's what we need. We need to start making up some of this ground on the sales that we wouldn't have in January because of just how hard it was in that December, January, February time period. You know, year to date, we're down 23%. Hopefully we'll keep chasing that number down as we continue on throughout this year. And like Anthony said, if we hit nice solid rates and they get down to, you know, those fives, low fives,
we could really
see a lot more buyer, and we can see a nice plateau throughout the rest of the year, which will really kind of make up a lot of the sold data and the solds that we're kind of lacking from the first start of the year.
Exactly. So I think the big thing here is we're trending like 2024 or 2014.
Where the hell are you?
Yeah, 2014, not in the future, right? So 2012, 2014, sorry.
2014.
Either way, a decade ago, that's where we're trending like. So if you kind of look at those markets, we used to have a 2.5x swing between a January and a June. So expect that the sales volume could be that extreme. Now it's going to slow down again in the fall. So you see these big peaks and big valleys. When you're in a market dictated by buyer behavior, that's what happens. When you're dictated by seller behavior, because there's too many buyers like we saw in the last few years, you see that curve flatten. So just want to prep everyone for the extreme swings in seasonality that very well could happen this year. What about average sales price?
Sold price, we'll just touch on it because we touch on this every month. Really just look at these TTM change percents on that far right-hand column on the bottom. Right, TTM is your trailing 12 months, PTTM is the previous trailing 12 months. This is just showing from last year to the year before, how are we doing, how is the appreciation, what's the average sold price, and it's going up. We're not seeing these numbers drop. Now, if you buy a house and sell it a month later, yeah, you're going to lose money. Even if it was a different market, you would lose money because of the transactional costs. Everyone knows that. If you're holding the house for a year to 2 years, you're still coming out ahead and you're still making good percentage increases on that home value. We're coming back into reality, right? 4 to 8%, 4 to 7%, somewhere in that range is really what we can expect to see, and that's a normal market. We can expect those appreciation numbers going forward. We're not going to see those double-digit 9, 10, 12, 14%, 16%. At one point, we even saw an 18% change, you know, in the values. We're not going to see that because interest rates aren't that low. But if interest rates drop, we'll continue to see this pick up, and our average sold price will continue to go up because people can borrow more money with a lower monthly payment. So we will see the sales price go up continuously, but it might change how much it's going up by depending on where interest rates go.
Well, and the composition of sales have really affected the average sales price. So when you get the, hey, did my house drop by $60,000 in value? I would like to go buy a new one, but I don't want to take a bath. You have to be able to answer that question, right? So Tucker stated it really well. I just think it's important to reiterate the composition of sales has dramatically shifted. $1 to $3 million homes don't make up the same percentage of the buys they did before, right? All right, so let's get over to this one. We don't need to talk too much about this, but we already kind of articulated this once. The third and fourth quarters are really where this could make a big difference. So fourth quarter, obviously, we had a really bad fourth quarter, right, last year. So expect us to outperform that, but expect us to kind of catch up all the way through June with those.
And that's what we're talking about right here. Is we're going to be trailing. Yeah, this is a cool little tool. We're going to be underneath these gray bars all throughout the year. But as we kind of hit this, if rates get a little bit better and really stabilize, and the economy stabilizes, and we don't have that fear of a recession, we can really expect this to be. We can expect our solds to be above these and trending nice and flat, and not this precipitous drop right there that we saw. So we can hopefully get a little bit more,
Let me show you something. Look at this.
a little bit more of that length.
Watch this. You want us to talk about best case scenario? We'll put it in green just because best case scenario. So here's where we are today, right? We trend up all the way through June. We probably missed this by, let's call it 8% at best case, right? We could literally plateau above these July numbers for 3 months. So maybe miss October, August, and September. And then we could actually like plateau all the way through about midway through November before we start dropping. We could make up 15% of our ground we've missed this year, right? So if interest rates drop, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
What Tucker was talking about is probably a more realistic scenario if interest rates are even around 6 by the middle of.
Yeah, if it's a true 6 with no points, we can hopefully be there. I just really wanted to show that because that's what we can kind of share with our folks out there. We can share this with our clients. Hey, if rates drop, we can expect to have much better sold value throughout the rest of the year, which will allow your buying season to keep going. Now for our last
slide, this is the one that you definitely want to use with those buyers when you're articulating the bidding wars.
Because this is for detached only. So then we're going to do detached and attached.
Attached and detached are really similar, but it's worth at least talking about these. So those lower price points, like we were trying to say, are really, really competitive. The highest competition is 5 to 599 in Boulder County, 102% sale price. There are bidding wars taking place. That shouldn't surprise anyone, right? We feel it, we talk about it, but what does that mean versus last year? What it means is it's not going to get much higher than that, right? Maybe 103% in April, maybe May would see something marginally different than that, but like basically we're at 100%, 99.7% average across all price points, right? It's competitive. This is a spring market, right? This is a really good sign for the market. You can see as we trend just over 100% over the next couple of months at our peak, that's a good sign that this is a healthy seasonal market. Now, we're not getting anywhere near the last 2 years, and then we're going to trend down back to that 98% in the fall like we usually see.
And that's a good sign, right? This is a normal, healthy market, solid, consistent appreciation. Buyers have some competition for the perfect houses, but other houses will sit if they're not ready or they're overpriced, whatever it may be. This is a really good sign. If rates drop, we can expect that 1 million to about 2, maybe even up to that 3 million to start improving and getting a lot better. Because then those folks, when they're borrowing $1 million or $2.5 million, $2 million, it's a lot more painful than if I'm borrowing $400,000 or $500,000. It's just a lot different.
Well, you can see it in the 2.5 to 3 million numbers. That's the lowest competition sector, right? 97.7%, which is honestly still a seller's market. Those are seller's market numbers, but that's where you're still borrowing money.
Yeah.
Once you get to that 3+ part, you see a lot more cash deals. So it's just it's a little bit more resilient.
Yeah, and that 3+ is.
So what about attached?
Yeah, attached.
Super important too.
People getting into the first-time homes have the most competition, right? That's what we're seeing. That 300 to really 600, 300 to 500 is the most competitive. That is entry-level condo, townhouse in Boulder County. That is where we're seeing first-time home buyers are coming in and buying it. Keep focusing on those first-time home buyers because us in the millennial generation, right here, I'm 34, I think about 35. Yeah. We're the millennials. We're supposed to be buying our first houses right now.
The biggest segment of home buyers.
We have 3 more years of really strong demographics of increasing population right in our age group coming into this first-time home buyer pool. So keep focusing on those younger folks who have good jobs here in Colorado, here in Boulder.
Finally ready to put some roots
down.
down.
To put those roots down. We're really starting to see it, and they're finally buying real estate. So that's going to continue to drive our, the more affordable side of the market because that's where the people are going to start. So we're going to see that really pick up, and attached is really making up lost ground from a few years during COVID.
For sure. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm Anthony with Land Title.
My name is Tucker Brock.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. Other than that, we'll catch you next month.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.